Welcome back to the final day of ASNT 2024. I'm Haley Cowens.
I'm Gara Liming, and it has been a fantastic conference.
It really has. It's been so great to reconnect with everybody, to get to see the excitement and how much everybody... my favorite part about being part of this industry, which, I had no idea about before I became part of the ASNT team, and everybody is just so passionate about NDT. And so it's really invigorating to be here with everybody.
Absolutely. Love it.
Yeah. So one of the big themes of this conference, as well as everything that we do at ASNT, is workforce development. And so that's going to be our main focus of this broadcast. We're going to be talking to some folks about some of the really exciting programs that we have and just how important it is to get the next generation of folks engaged in NDT.
Near and dear to my heart, too, with advocacy.
Absolutely. Advocacy and workforce development go hand in hand. So it'll be some great conversations ahead. We're joined by Theo Young, the winner of the UT competition. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
I appreciate
congratulations.
it. Thank you.
So to get started, can you just tell us a little bit about your story?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started off as an assistant technician roughly about 16, almost 17 years ago. Worked my way through the industry. And then somewhere around about 6 years ago, I decided that I wanted to start mentoring individuals. It was something that was really big for us. So we ended up selling our home, right? My wife was a very big person that believed in me to be able to do this. And while I'm maybe a pretty good technician, I'm not the greatest, but I'm maybe a little pretty good.
You just won a competition.
I'm no businessman by far. I opened up our business in the middle of COVID. Yeah, I know. Great thinking, right? But we have now been in business almost, February made 5 years, right? We've helped so many individuals find jobs. We're working with Workforce Solutions, Prisoner Entrepreneur Program, and we have the highest employment rate. We're currently 98% employment rate.
Wow.
This competition, may seem silly, as I was saying before, to some individuals, but for us, it was, and I say this humbly, get a level of recognition, right, for our school, for our students, for people that believe in us, right? So there was candidates from 5 different countries. There was some stiff competition. Definitely want to some key players that, that I went up against, like Montoya. You did phenomenal. I barely won by 2 points, right? So that's something that can, be mentioned for forever. Also, Mr. Kingston. Mr. Kingston, he walked away and he said, I don't care about anything else. I just beat Paul Holloway, right? I remember when we were in the shear wave competition, Brian Fry even said, man, he should have beat me. He absolutely should have, right? During this competition, your nerves are going, everything is going, you're fighting so much. I shook the entire time I was on the stage.
Yeah.
This is a lot of individuals that have a lot of prestige. And, being here, I'm just thankful, that we were invited.
Was this your first competition?
Yeah, it was actually my first conference as well.
Okay.
Oh, wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
It's our first time here. I say this humbly, we travel from Houston. We're a small company. It's me and my wife. That's it. I take that back. I can't forget about my instructors, Richard Ruiz, Sameen Britton. We have Charles Matthews. We have a bunch of individuals that are helping us out, Marvin Coates. But, when it comes to the financial aspect, it's just me and my wife. So, we decided, hey, we're going to make this investment. We're going to make this drive out here, and we're going to bring that belt back to Texas. So
yeah, and here you are wearing it. And so your company is Refined Inspection Services.
That is correct.
And so it's you and your wife. And what's your name?
Narita Young.
Narita Young.
Nice to meet you.
So it's so nice to meet you both. I'm so glad that you both were able to be here.
Yeah, thank you.
So what has been, other than your victory, what has been your favorite part of attending ASNT 2024?
The exhibits. There is so much modern day NDT technology, things that I wasn't aware of that have already launched. There was things that were kind of already in the works, right? But to see it actually out there being advertised, like UT thickness drones, that's just phenomenal. Paul Holloway did some great work with that as well. Some of these gyro scanners. Evident unleashed their Omni X4, right? So MX4. So, this just seeing all the different technology and how it's going to make our world safer is, something that I take pride in. Something I'm glad I was able to attend.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So you mentioned the importance for you and your company and what you're starting about. It's, it's mentorship and it's building up people and to get into this industry. One of our big themes always is workforce development and
Right.
bringing up the next generation. Why is that so important to you?
So whenever I was a technician, I grew up under the Vietnam veteran era, right? So
Mhm.
these individuals, they taught you, but it was a tough teaching, right? It was by that grit. You had to
Mhm.
show that you were someone who was going to be dedicated, that you weren't going anywhere, and they would take you under their wing. I've been doing this now, like I said, for almost 16, 17 years, and I truly believe that someone shouldn't have to wait 17 years to know what I know, right? They shouldn't have to, show that grit and that grind, right? Why not open it up and let's have those people come to us?
Yeah.
So we started something called Refine's NDT Gym. And what that is we actually allow individuals, whether they're our students or not, to come in, use our equipment, like the flaw detector that we won was going to be part of our gym. So that will be on display. People can come in, scan flawed samples, they can sharpen their skills, and then hopefully compete in this competition, right? And come get this belt back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So
Well, thank you so much for joining us. You've just won the UT competition. What are you going to do next?
I think we're going to get some rest, honestly. There's so much that we have in store. One of the things that I do want to mention that, we're extremely blessed to be here. So we talked about the flaw detector. We said where that's going to go, right? ASNT gifted us with $1,000 for winning. We're actually going to be donating that $1,000 to Camp Hope.
Wow.
I think that there needs to be more awareness about our veterans.
Yeah.
So that's where our heart is, and that's what we're going to do.
That's
Absolutely.
wonderful.
That's wonderful to hear. Thank you so much. Congratulations again. And, I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
Thank you,
you guys
sir.
for having us.
Yeah.
Have a great one.
Now we have Heather Coles with us. She is the Executive Director for the ASNT Foundation.
Yes, and we're also joined by Marty Grain. Thank you so much for coming over to talk to us.
Yeah, welcome, Marty and Heather.
Thank you.
A pleasure.
So I know that you'll both be giving a presentation on the industry reports that were recently completed by the ASNT Foundation. So we're going to want to talk about that in a moment. But first, for people that might not be aware, can you tell us a little bit about the ASNT Foundation, what its role is, and what are some of its, goals and initiatives?
Absolutely. So we are in year 2 of the ASNT Foundation. We are a separate 501c3, and our mission is to advance non-destructive testing through scholarships, research, and workforce development.
Yeah, those are all excellent topics, and obviously workforce development is something we keep hearing about again and again as it's crucial for this industry right now.
Absolutely.
And what are some initiatives you're working on?
So right now we're working on, we just opened up our 2025 call for scholarships, which it includes scholarships for tuition. We also have our fellowships, which is for graduate research at high-level institutions. And then we also have grants that are for student travel to come to some of our events and have an experience, to network, to find employment.
Yeah. And so for those of you watching at home, if you are interested in checking those out, and for those of you who are here as well, visit foundation.asnt.org and make sure to check out some of those scholarships and grants that are available, because that's a really helpful part of the industry. And another way that you can engage is by donating to the foundation to be able to support those important programs.
Yes.
So you'll be talking about 2 industry reports that were recently completed by the foundation. So can you give us a little preview of what you'll be talking about those reports?
Yeah. So the first report is the industry or NDT readiness workforce report. And that really focused on finding out from both the hiring companies and the practitioners, we had them assess their own skills. We also had them share their perspectives on hiring challenges. And then, of course, we had them share compensation information, what their feelings were about fairness on compensation and benefits in the industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then the second report, of course, is the compensation report itself, which has all of the numbers, the average salary, and just to make sure both of those reports were focused in the United States.
I think as I looked through the results of the report, I found that the perceptions and the feeling of the practitioners, when you see their concerns, you're going to be shocked. You'll be shocked tomorrow. Their concerns and their perceptions, I'm not going to give it away yet, so
Sure.
Come see us tomorrow. And from a skills development, we had a working session earlier today. It talked about, this is really going to be about people, right? We talk it's technology, we talk it's software, it's AI, but it's really about people and how people interact with people and how people accept technology.
Yeah.
And I think the other shocking thing that came out of this report to me is that those people skills are very, very low for practitioners, where the ones we talk to. Not surprising, right? They're
Sure.
engineers, they're technicians, they do a great job. They don't necessarily do a wonderful job interacting with people, so that's going to be one of the challenges we have going forward as an industry. And I think as we talk about hiring and looking for other folks, the challenge is simple. Most applicants fall short everywhere, right? And you're going to see that in the report that and the results that we're going to show tomorrow. Every single category, the new applicants fall short.
Yeah. And so in some ways, that sounds like a lot of challenges, but it's also an opportunity for organizations like ASNT to be able to serve the industry. Now, we know what the problems are. We know what we need to be focusing on.
That's
Right.
exactly why we did the research, because we wanted to understand where should we put our emphasis in order to, so emphasis would be the weaknesses and the challenges. Where do we put our emphasis so we can improve in those areas and try and help the industry be better?
Yeah.
Regarding research, like what's next?
So what's next is we're going to be tracking to see if some of these feelings and perspectives change over time. So again, we learned a lot, like Marty said, from the reports. And so we're going to use it as, again, a guide and kind of identify what are our metrics. So again, the question is we want to learn not just the growth of workforce development, what we're achieving, but again, I think it's about the progress and advancement of those skill sets of those practitioners.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think people are going to be surprised because we're going to put on the screen what the average salary is for an NDT technician. And I think they're going to look at that and they're going to benchmark themselves against that. So there's going to be some surprise, probably both ways.
Yeah.
But more importantly, we're going to talk about how does that compare versus other technician jobs. So NDT versus every other technician job. Is it higher, the salary higher, or is it lower? What do you think?
I would hope higher, but
Good answer.
Yeah.
But what do you think it is?
it sounds like maybe it's lower.
You should come tomorrow.
I should, yes. I'm interested to learn.
You'll be shocked.
Okay.
I was shocked
Yeah.
when I saw the result. So that's kind of a shocking thing that you're going to find. You're also going to find out how people feel about their own compensation.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I'll give you some data, 20%, 18% of technicians don't feel like they're being compensated well enough.
Sure.
But the good news is 80%, feel pretty good about how they're compensated.
Yeah.
So
And the other good news is that 96% of them also said that they enjoy their work and they will plan to continue staying in NDT, and that they're going to be advocating to the young professionals coming up to choose this career.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
and when they find NDT is paid significantly higher than all other technicians in the other industries, they'll definitely want to stay.
Yeah. So,
And that was
obviously,
a hint. Yeah.
that was a hint.
Yeah.
I picked up on it.
Okay, we got you.
So obviously, we talked about how these reports give us a direction for the areas that we want to focus on. What do you hope that attendees to your presentation will take away?
Well, I think for hiring companies, they're finally going to have something to compare with what they've been doing. So, again, this is something that has been asked for several years now, and I'm just happy that we have something to give them to those hiring companies.
Yeah.
And two, I think it's a good benchmark for the actual practitioners. Like Marty said, there's going to be some surprises both ways.
Yeah.
So I think it'll help them find where they are in compensation and benefits compared to others in the field.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think every piece of data that we put up there, you are going to have, are going to have a perception of what you think the answer is.
Yeah.
So when we ask practitioners this, what do you think it is? What do you think it is? And then we'll give you the actual data.
Right.
I think so people are going to benchmark that. They're going to have preconceived notions, and we're going to either confirm them or we're going to crush them.
Yeah.
So it should be an interesting time.
Absolutely.
Should be some interesting reactions.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Good.
And the full compensation report and the workforce readiness report, both of those will be, as you said, available on our website in November. So we really hope that, they want to learn more from after hearing our talk in the morning.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Heather, that's a great point. We're going to show some, I won't even say highlights, just pieces of data from the research, but it's just cut like kind of one way. You can do it by technician, you can do it by certification. I mean, there's so many ways to cut this data because we got really good demographics for this data set. Yeah, there's a lot more to it when you start peeling the onion away besides just the things that we're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so thank you both so much for joining us. I'm really looking forward to this presentation tomorrow, and I'm sure everybody else will get a lot out of it.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you for having
I
us.
hope so.
Yes,
Hope
thank you,
so.
Heather and
Hope
Marty.
you-
So I'm joined by Eddie Pompa. He is one of our faces of NDT and does so many different things with developing the workforce and mentoring young students. So wanted to get your perspective today. So welcome, and how have you been enjoying it at ASNT 2024?
Well, I'll tell you what, I really enjoyed it. As always, it's been a good event. The keynote speaker, Tamara Robertson, was excellent, right? Several great points, took plenty of notes, ready to kind of continue that along and, pushing that forward, right? As we do as part of the faces of NDT already, we're doing that. But otherwise, it's been a really good show, making lots of good connections, lots of good feedback from the vendors and everyone else.
Yeah. So what has been the most meaningful part for you of serving as a face of NDT and just in general being such a great advocate for the NDT industry?
I guess what I've really enjoyed is the camaraderie among the faces. I think it's been a really excellent experience, right? The diverse group, just different industries if nothing else, right?
Right.
But just the backgrounds and getting to know these people, they're coming more like family to me, right? So there's that part, the personal part, which I think speaks volumes. There's a lot of things we can do technically, but it's the things we do on the soft side, right? The soft skills. I think somebody had mentioned that today, that it's the connections, the caring.
Yeah.
And I think that comes through from people like yourself, staff members, and not just the faces, but it all comes from that.
Yeah, no, and that's actually something that's going to be discussed in the presentation about some workforce research that the ASNT Foundation has been doing, is the importance of the soft skills as well as the technical knowledge. So
Okay.
it's great that you're kind of spreading that message and getting that a part of, because it's an NDT career, it's about a lot of different things.
It is, but and I think it's kind of funny is I think this came up last year in our panel discussion with the students. When I was asked, what's the most important thing, and that was my number one. And it wasn't before. I really never thought about it, but it is, right? It's if you can't communicate what you need or want, you can't get the help you need. And I would say old, but one of my original mentors, that was his message he shared with me was, you can be the most technically savvy person in the world, but if you don't know how to communicate it and share it, then it's never heard, right? It's not out there. So you got to learn to do the soft skills to make it more effective. And because I know plenty of people that are really intelligent but don't know how to communicate it.
Yeah.
So, like I said, moving it to the children, to the students, and the workforce coming up, like I said, if you don't know how to ask the questions, you don't know how to approach people in a courteous way, you're not going to get anywhere, first of all. So, again, I'm glad they're going to talk about it because I think it's very important to push that forward.
Yeah. So I know a big thing you're involved in. I've seen a lot of people wearing your pins and all of your merchandise. It's NDT Hero. So can you tell the viewers a little bit about how you advocate for the NDT industry through NDT Hero?
Through NDT Heroes? Well, yes, I do advocate as an NDT hero, right? So as you may or may not know, and the audience may not know, is it started out as an art passion, an art drive. The intent was to try to get people to buy my art and do that. And it has. People have purchased it, and it's been a great pleasure to have that experience. But it's triggered, it's kind of transformed itself. And as you look at the tagline, it says NDT hero, NDT advocate. And that's really what it's become for me is pushing the message out there, right? Working with the students. And that I've worked with high school students recently and been developing that. But that's kind of what it's evolving to. It's moving into becoming that voice for the students, for the younger generation, and making sure to just represent and so the heroes actually help, right? Because it's colorful, it's fun, and it brings some lightness to the industry. So I think that's the other part of it that I think really communicates with everybody. If I can, the quick story I'll share with you, right? So as much as we share my content in different formats, my oldest daughter had told me, she goes, Dad, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they said slag. I said, okay, well, I've got a character. It's a villain, which is slag.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, I know what slag is.
Yeah.
Right? So I thought, see, it's working. It's working. It's trickling into the general population. My own daughter, you know, who's, you know, she's like, I know what that is.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, it's going to happen, right? People are going to soon know what NDT is, and the common, you know, common conversation is going to come up.
Yeah.
And I like to think I've contributed to that.
Absolutely. It takes the methods and the science behind everything and makes it, you know, in a way that's relatable for kids.
Yeah.
So that's you know, what we need to see.
Exactly. And that's why I'm so excited to be able to do that. You know, the crazy thing is it wasn't the intention. Like I said, I was hoping to be an artist and sell my art.
Right.
And I've done some, but it doesn't take away from the passion. And I still continue to do it because it shares the message. But I'm also excited the fact that it's transitioned into relating our industry forward, right, and pushing it forward. And how many times have I heard people today come up to me and say, hey, Eddie, I really appreciate what you're doing. You're doing a lot for this industry. I mean, and just that message, right? And it makes you feel really good. I'm not doing this to make a ton of money.
Right.
I'm if money at all, right? It doesn't really matter. But it's just that encouragement. And I tell you what, you talk about this event, I think it's kind of become for me every year, it becomes a recharge event for me.
Yeah.
I mean, the year can be long, you know, a lot of things going on, but when I come here and I get those words of encouragement and people really liking it and supporting it, and not just coming up for the pins and the swag,
Right.
They're coming up to meet me and say, hi, I like what you're doing, keep doing it. And there's nobody like you and all this stuff is great, but it recharges the battery and gets me charged up for next year.
Yeah.
And I know that my goals, you know, through this event and the rest of this year will develop, and I'll have new goals for next year. So that's kind of what it ends up being for me. And that's why, you know, I guess that's another reason why I'm excited to be here every year, is because it's kind of become that pattern.
Yeah.
And it's really helpful.
Yeah. No, and I know it makes a huge difference. I wanted to share with you a personal anecdote. So I actually got to talk to Tamara after you had met with her. And,
Okay.
you know, you had shared with me how starstruck and excited you were to talk to her, but she was so excited to have met you. And she was telling us, have you met this guy that does these NDT comics? Look how cool this is. And we were like, oh, yeah, we know Eddie. So she thought that was just as cool as well. And so, you know, it's all about making these connections and getting the word out. So.
Yeah, it is, right? And I was shocked when I went to my Instagram account and I saw she was following me. And I hadn't gotten on yet. Oh, imagine that. She's following me first.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool, right? So I made it. I mean, I'm glad. And so I tagged her in my stuff. So yeah, it's kind of cool. I'm glad. It's nice to hear that, right? That she was impressed and had those nice words to say.
Yeah.
Because that's the most important thing to me is that feedback.
Right.
So thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that, because
Yeah,
I really
of
like
course,
that.
Of course. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Eddie. You know, it's always a pleasure to talk to you.
No, thank you very much, Haley. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and look forward to having another conversation. Well, next year, maybe sooner. Who knows, right?
Yeah, probably sooner.